There, and welcome to Career Stories Live with me, Kerri Twigg, in my living room. I am really excited for today's show. I have a couple things to share with you. We have a guest coming on in about 15 minutes, and I'm ready to take all of your questions. I have two people who submitted LinkedIn profiles that they want reviewed, so I'll cover those. I have one resume that I'm going to review and a couple other things. So if you want to ask me a question, I would love to answer your questions. It takes us for the streaming, we're doing double streaming. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for us to get the questions. So if you're on LinkedIn, just type them in there. If you're on YouTube, just type them in there. And then Dave, who's doing my moderating today, will pass those questions on to me, but we'll just gather them. If you're interested in coming on live with me, so having a conversation with me, we can share that link with you, or you can just type a question and I will answer it for you. So today, the things that I have planned to share are, I got a set list. I made a video earlier today about 5-step cover letter, so I'm going to share that video with you as we catch up on all your questions. Then I'll do a LinkedIn review, and this is a real estate review that I'll be doing. Then Galit Ariel is coming, and Galit is like, you'll love her. She's one of my favorite people ever in the world, but she makes her living. She's really spent the last year and a half or 2 years just traveling around to all these tech conferences. And that was how she was doing, like making a living. So it'll be really interesting to talk with her about how she's adapting during this time when what she had to do for work, she can no longer do, but isn't having conventional job loss. So we'll talk to her. We'll also talk with her about being hot tub famous, which is like an inside joke we'll share with you. Then we'll do some questions and answers. I will share a little bit about how we can adapt our career stories during this time, because we do have to make some sort of a shift. A little bit more of Q&A, and then if we don't have a lot of other questions, then I'll do that second resume review. So that's today's show. So we are going to start first, as we start to go into the chat and figure out your questions, by showing you a video I made earlier about how to write a cover letter in 5 easy steps. So enjoy that, and then I'll be back. Career stories. Hey there, I'm going to teach you the 5 steps to writing an incredible cover letter. So step 1, before you even write anything down on the cover letter, take a couple minutes to think about why you want to work for this particular company and why this particular role. And just write out maybe just a list of 10 reasons why you want to work for the company. Done? Okay, cool. Then after you've done that, look at your list and go, what would be the most interesting reason for that company? What reason would they want to hear? So circle it, select it, and then that's going to be your opening paragraph. So instead of starting your cover letter with, hey, I'm a so-and-so, you're going to start it with, hey, this is why I think that your company is so great, and this is why I think the role is so interesting. You make it about them. You're stroking some egos. Step 3, identify what the soft and the hard skills are in the job. And that might be, if you're basing it off of a job ad, then you're going to look for words, look for hard skills, look for soft skills, look for words that repeat themselves. Just identify what words you want to be using that they really care about. If you're applying for a job where there is no job ad, and you've been talking to someone at the company, or if you are proposing a job, then you just want to think about, what skills do you think from all the research you've done they're really going to care about. So identify those skills. And then step 4 is think of a really compelling story. Think of an example from your professional life that highlights most of those skills. So it can be a mix of soft and hard skills. And then that's going to be your paragraph 2 and 3. So paragraph 1, you stroke their egos. Paragraph 2, you go, I have such and such skills. Story 3, you go, here's an example. You tell them a wonderful story. And then the last step, step 5 of writing an incredible cover letter, is to just take a moment to also go, if I got this job, how would I help this company? What would I do and what could they expect if I was the person in this role? And that's what you tell them, right? So paragraph 4 is, if you were to hire me, I would boom, boom, boom. I would do this and this and this for you, so that they can imagine you doing the work. So they know exactly the difference that you would make going to their organization. So that is the 5 steps to writing an incredible, human voice, memorable cover letter. Thanks for watching. Awesome. So any questions that you have, I see a couple questions coming in about cover letters. And I wrote more information in a blog post about that. But yeah, so Fabrice has asked, she said, so I find writing cover letters so frustrating, and it takes me so long, and I don't find this process enjoyable at all. So how do you make cover lettering more enjoyable and less time consuming? So follow those 5 steps. Yeah, so follow those 5 steps, because the secret is that cover letters are hard when you're faking it, right? So if you are writing a letter for a job that you don't actually want, that process will help you go, oh, I won't even apply. If you can't think of 10 reasons why you're attracted to a company and why you would want to work there, then I don't think you should even apply, because if you can't get excited before you apply, how can you get excited during the interview or when you go to work? Then you just look at what they want, tell them a story that matches. So if you know your career stories, that can make it easier. And then imagine yourself in the job and go, if I was successful and I got this job, what would I do for the company? And share that with them. And that can help, that can make it a little bit easier. So having a checklist instead of trying to fill in the blanks of a template, I think that will make it easier. I think remembering that, so not everyone reads cover letters, but the cover letter is more about creating a cheat sheet for you. So it's when you, when they call you for the job interview, they're going to ask you, why do you want this job? They're going to ask you, why do you want this job? They're going to ask you, like, what skills you bring. They might ask you to back it up, and then they're going to ask you, if you were successful, how would you help our company? And if you write the cover letter like that, when you get the screen call, it's going to work out for you. So hopefully that makes it easier. So Elias had asked if you can still submit a resume. I actually have a bit of a backlog of them, but you can email it to me and I can get to it probably in like a week or 2. So thanks for asking. Jennifer, so asked that thank you notes are essential after interviews, but what's my view on how to quickly send them? So you do them very personalized ones, and they take time to write. So within 24 hours is absolutely reasonable. So you leave the interview, write up your notes, like have it and send it the next day. That's totally fine. Yeah. And just remembering right now, like that shouldn't have to be said, but just in the environment that we're in, that it is an emailed thank you note is going to go over way better than a written or a mailed thank you note. So cool. Do I have an example that I could read to you? So I did write a cover letter that got photocopied and sent across an office. So I don't really so I have a course where I show that sample. You don't really need to look at a sample, because what happens is that if you look at a sample, and it's the same for resume writing and same with like LinkedIn profiles, is that sometimes you look at a sample and you're like, that sounds so good. And then you want to sound like that sample, but a cover letter needs to sound like you. So if you do the formula, so you just write to a company. So if I was applying for a job, Galit's here. So I'm like, imagine I want to work for like Galit. So first I'm going to think of 10 reasons why I want to work with her. So, and I'm going to choose the one that I think she's going to care about the most. She's going to care of, I'm like, for 10 reasons I want to work with her. I'm like, because she's really cool, because she has a great network, because I think that she's working to like change the world. She's got great style. So I think I make a list of 10 things, and I'm like, well, what Galit would want to hear is, I'm like, what would she want to hear? I think I'd be like, I really want to work with you because I believe that your work could change the world. That would be my first line. Then I'd say, I bring the skills of, so I think of the skills that she would ask for. And I'd be like, I bring the skills of collaboration, creativity, and perseverance. So I would name those skills for her. And then I would tell her a story. So I'd be like, I was working at this art center. It had no money. I came up with this idea for a program. So I would tell her the story, my third paragraph. And I'd say, if I could work for you, this is what I would do. Boom, boom, boom. And I would list what I would do with her and go, sincerely, Kerri Twigg. And that is what it sounds like. So tell them why you want to work for them. Name your skills. Tell them a story that backs it up. Tell them what you'll do and how the company will benefit from you working there, and then sign off. So yeah, that's what I do. But Galit is here, so I think it would be great. I'm just gonna start to have a conversation with her because I love this is my first guest. So I am so excited because I've never.
You should have straight gone to the Star Trek card. You would have been in,
Oh,
that's the biggest win with me. Okay. Star Trek.
Oh, right. See, someone else, if you know her better, would do that. So this is Galit Ariel. I love her. I think let's share our LinkedIn story. And then I want to talk a little bit about how your career is maybe different right now in this environment, if that's cool.
Sure.
Cool. So do you remember how we met?
Oh, I remember. I stalked you, I think.
Oh, no. I stalked you first.
Really?
Yeah.
We stalked each other.
Yeah. So this is a LinkedIn love story. So.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So this other person who, what's her name? Chi Ryan? Is that how you say it? Yeah. So Chi Ryan wrote a post on LinkedIn about like 2 years ago. And she said, all of these people are cool. And she listed a name of people that she thought were cool. And I was on the list. But so was Galit and like 15 other people. So because I had a ton of respect for Chi, I connected with all of the people on her list. And I wrote to them and said, Chi said you're cool, so you must be. And I did that to you. So your first professional message from me was, hey, someone says you're cool, so I want to know you. And then how did you respond?
And then I was like, well, she says you're cool, so we have to connect as well. And I think we started, I think we let it be for a while, but I started seeing you in my feed, and we started commenting and also commenting on her feed. And then one day, it was before I moved to Canada, and I was like, who do I know in Canada? So before coming to Canada, when I was planning out, I was reaching out through LinkedIn to everyone that I knew or I had some sort of a dialogue with in Canada. I think I wrote to you as well, like, hey, I'm coming to Canada. I'm coming to Toronto, not knowing that Toronto and Winnipeg are hours away. Let's meet for coffee. And I think you were like, oh, well, I live in Winnipeg, but if I'm ever in Toronto. And I think 1 week or 2 weeks after I actually moved here, you posted in LinkedIn that you're giving a workshop in Toronto. And I was like, yes. And I basically came to your workshop. And then it was like love at second sight, right? Like the love at first sight was in LinkedIn. And then we were like,
yeah. So I think what was so cool is that so often we think of LinkedIn as like, how can we connect with people to like sell our services? But I never was like, I want to meet Galit to like sell her something. I immediately wanted to collaborate, right? The cool thing is that after that, then we talked because we met in Toronto. So we talked more often. I think like once or twice, like once a week or bi-weekly, helping each other, right?
Yeah.
And then Galit had the opportunity to speak at TED Women, and she let me come with her to Palm Springs.
Let you. I was like, Kerri, please come with me. I need. And the thing is, I think nobody knew about TED Women. I was like really keeping it in the low because I was so stressed that, first of all, when they first approached me, I think you remember that story. I thought it was a hoax because I'm a big prankster. And then when I got the email from them, I'm like, which one of my idiot friends think I'm going to fall for that? So I just ignored TED. Like TED was writing, we're not TED, but the organization was writing to me and I ignored them. So by the time I realized it's real and said yes, I was already kind of like overwhelmed. And I thought to myself, like, who is the one person that I know, that every time I talk to brings me, to a calm and confident place? Who is the person I want to bring with? And we were close, but we weren't like friends. We actually, except for this one time in Toronto after we didn't meet in person, we didn't interact. And that was like a full on going to LA together. And it was great. It was fantastic.
Yeah. So I love that story. So the coolest thing that happened at TED Women is Galit spoke. Well, no, before she spoke, we were leaving one day and she was walking, and a woman in a hot tub saw you walk by and was like, "Hey, are you Galit?" And I was like, holy, she's famous. Because someone, like, I was like, if you walk by and someone's in a hot tub and they yell at you, that's fame.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is,
that's where you coined the hot tub famous.
Yeah, hot tub famous.
You're hot tub famous. Yeah.
And then, like 6 months later, I was at the YMCA at my kids' like swim class in a bathing suit when this guy's like, "Hey, you're the LinkedIn resume lady," and started asking me resume questions with me in a bathing suit. And I was like, hot tub famous.
Hot tub famous. You never made it till you made it in a hot tub.
Yeah. So if anybody else is hot tub famous, you can be, in this club.
It's a club of two for now.
It's a club of two.
Yeah.
So of women who wear lipstick. So good. So that's our hot tub story. So can you tell people who are watching this live or going to watch the recording a little bit about your work and what you were doing before the pandemic? What were you like? What were you doing?
So at my current I would say professional life, if I can call it that, because as you know, I had like different career paths, not very linear, but makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I did different creative roles. But in the last couple of years, I've been focusing on emerging tech. So I write and talk and make workshops about emerging technologies. Sorry, this is emerging technologies and immersive tech in specific. So augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, all the alternative realities.
Yeah.
I do a lot of speaking engagements around the world and workshops, and I consult to clients. Actually, a lot of them are still in Europe because I moved to Canada from Europe. So I do quite a bit of traveling throughout the year.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I've always been like a little envious, and we were supposed to be like speaking in Australia together, right? And that
was so great. We were supposed to travel together. That was actually this was the plan when we went to. Remember when we went to LA together? We said, our dream, and it's still our aspiration, is to do workshops together, to like travel together 3-4 times a year and do workshops. And that was our first actually opportunity. And we were like so excited, but unfortunately,
it didn't happen. Yeah. So I got sick, couldn't go to Australia. We're supposed to go to like Austria, like all of these places. So you were traveling kind of all over the world and set to be like, if the pandemic hadn't happened, would you be somewhere right now other than Canada?
No, actually, I actually my immediate travel plans were not changed because I was March, April, May. I was set to stay in Toronto and write my second book, which is about the
Mm.
apocalypse. So the route, yeah, the book literally writes itself. Uh,
Yeah.
so I didn't change my travel plans per se, but um, all my travel plans for July, August, September, all my consultancy trips got, put on ice. All
Yeah.
my grant applications got put on ice for all the art tech projects. So I found myself, I think, like a lot of people at the moment, even though it was closer to where I was meant to be, I found myself very static, which, as you
Mm.
know me by now, is not a state that I'm
It's not a Galit thing.
used to. Static? What do you mean? I'll just start another project.
So how have you dealt with that? How do you deal with
So,
that?
well, in on one hand, you know me, I'm a big optimist, and like my mom said, a real optimist is somebody that knows it could be worse. So I'm like, it could be worse. I'm
Um,
safe. I'm home. I'm healthy. It's fine. Um, I think I was prepared to it, maybe because of the book I'm writing. I was really epidemic prepared in a weird way. But I have been sitting and watching people going through this, especially people. I've been working freelance and from home for a while now, for quite a few years. But people that work in offices and now have to sit at home and find their rhythm again and find their
mm,
space again, physically but also mentally. It's a lot harder for them, I think. um on one hand. On the other hand, this was my refuge, right?
okay.
Like, so
Yeah.
I'm very social. I would go out, I would meet, and then I would come home and work at home, right? Like evenings, weekends, this is when I work the best. And all of a sudden I don't own that. So again, my separation was different. It's like everyone came living in my workspace and everybody trying to Zoom me all day long. And I'm like, eh. So it was
Mm,
hard. I really had a couple of weeks that I was in limbo. Um, and I was trying to fight it. I was trying to be productive and giving myself schedule. And then I just gave up in a good way. I said, you know what, I'm going to lean in. This is different. We're now going through something different. Um, we're now going through something I don't think, people in our lifetime experienced like
no,
that.
never.
So instead of fighting it, I'm just going to sit back, take a step back, and start observing, what's happening to me and what still, keeps me going. And the first thing I've done is do like a little financial report to myself and say, okay, this is all my, this was the year. Like, I started really having like signing big ticket projects, and I was like, this is the year. But guess what? It's not. Well, it's not for now, but it's
Yeah.
fine. I'm like, okay, it wasn't mine to be taken, but let me see what the situation is. What is the worst case scenario? And I did my little calculation, and it's not great, but it's like I can pay the rent. I can make it through the next few months. So instead of obsessing, and I think this is something that a lot of people are going through right now, they're trying to fight it, right? They're
Yeah.
trying to hack COVID. Let's hack the situation.
Ah,
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, this is too big for me to hack. I can't hack all of this.
yeah.
Um, I'm looking around. I'm seeing everybody. I've been looking like, what are the opportunities that fit who I am, and what are the things that don't.
Mm. How do
So
you
I'm
know
like,
what fits you? Like, how do you know what
I
fits you?
think
Like, I know what fits me, but how do you know? Just for anyone who's like in the situation where they have to figure out.
it's just where is my comfort zone. I'm like, back to the
Okay.
comfort zone, back to the comfort zone. So
Ah,
I'm very good. I'm not. I have a really great network, but
yes.
it's because I'm not a networker. I don't think and these are conversations we had. Like, I have this amazing network that I never utilize or never used to. I was like, because I love people, I just want to be around people. I'm very social.
Yes.
Um, and I'm very open and honest. So the people in my network, it's really relationships.
Yeah.
I don't work with people I don't like. I have the privilege or and the conviction. And the people I like, I always try to find way to work with. This
Yeah.
is, it's because I lived in Italy for years, and it's something very Italian that stayed in me, where I actually ended up getting jobs. I don't know if I told you that. It was like Italy was such a weird place to work, because I never got a job by showing my portfolio or CV. They don't want to see it. They're like,
I've never had an Italian client.
it's in
Oh no, I've
Italy.
had one, but yeah, it was unconventional work. Okay.
Yeah, because in Italy, a lot of it is nepotism, not necessarily in a bad way. It's about familiarity.
Yeah.
So a lot of people get referenced through only through their network. And I remember I went to a job interview and I was like chatting to the guy, and he was like, "Okay, you're hired." I'm like, "What? Like, I didn't even show you what I can do, and let me show you." He's like, "No, no, it's fine. You're hired." I'm like, "No," and I made him go through my thing, and he was kind of like, "Yeah, whatever." And I'm like, "Why don't you want to see my work? Don't you
Oh
want
my.
to see my skills?"
Yeah.
And he said something that at the time I resisted, and years later I learned to evaluate. He said, "Skills are something I can teach you. Relationships are something that you either have or don't, like a rapport with someone." So he said, "We have a great rapport. I can fix everything else." And I was like, at the time, I came from a British education system. I'm like, "No, it's there's the books." Um, so I was resistant to it. I thought it was really bizarre. But the older I get, the more important I understand of how a good rapport, and I'm not saying friendship, but a good rapport is important in a work environment, because
Yeah.
you know uh, ticking the boxes is great, but let's admit it. Let's admit to ourselves, who would we like to work with or for, or as a employee, somebody that is like super perfect but you cannot just stand spending time with, or somebody that is good enough and you have a great relationship with. um,
Yes. It,
and
it's funny.
not that I'm saying I wasn't good,
No, but
but
there's a resume I'm going to review in a little while, and this guy in his resume, it's all about like top of the class, won this. This is my GPA,
mm,
like achieve. And I was like, and my one note I was going to make is that we don't really super love achievers, and I think even right now, in like the COVID thing, I don't think we love achievers. Like, I think we love helpers and, like you're saying,
yeah,
these connectors, but someone being like, I can do this and I'm the best and I went here
yeah.
and I got that. I
And
think it's becoming such a turnoff.
well, for me, I was never impressed. I'm never impressed by, I got this award, I have, 10 million followers. I'm not impressed by that.
Yeah.
I don't understand the value. I know that a lot of people are, and
Yeah.
especially in a culture that we have like likes and followers. Um, I'm not, I'm sometimes it actually, I'm suspicious sometimes about people like that. I'm
That have so
suspicious
many.
because
Like, how do they?
no, I'm like, with you, that was like a wonderful, pleasant surprise. 'Cause I'm like, this is because most of the people that I know, um, have to act out a persona to be
Mm,
likable, right? If you're liked by everyone, you're not loved by anyone, right? So
yeah.
that was my motto. Like, people that everybody likes are not necessarily representing something authentic, right?
Mm,
Because there's
yeah.
no controversy, there's no personality, they're easy, they're vanilla ice cream. Not that vanilla ice cream is bad, but it's like
She
not
makes
chunky,
ice cream, so yeah.
okay, yeah, and I make ice cream sometimes. So I was suspicious when I saw you. I was like, on LinkedIn, I was like, what's her deal? And
She
I
was
really,
popular, and but I'm popular, but I don't think in a way because I'm being conventional. I think that I'm.
well, I don't, that's the thing. I don't think you're popular. That's a difference. Popularity, it's from popular. Popular means the people, right? Of the people, somebody that is,
Mm,
I don't want to say mediocre, but popular is
okay.
somebody that has to be for the people, with the people, on, you know, part, like make everyone feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean, not mediocrity in the bad way, but kind of like, um just no edges, right?
Yeah.
Which is again perfectly fine, but I'm just yeah, I don't see it as an extra quality. I'm like, it's a fine quality, but it's not an extra quality. And when I got to know you, this is not about popularity. I think you attract people because you're genuine, because you just show yourself the way you are, and you don't ask people to love you or follow you. You don't ask
Yeah.
for their approval. You're just there, and
Here's
like,
my
this is
stuff.
it. Yeah, here's my stuff. Take it or leave it, and you don't get offended. I never seen you offended
Oh,
or
I've been offended.
nasty. I've never seen
But
you
never
offended.
publicly. Yeah.
No, no, you don't. Yeah, you don't take it out on other people. You take it in, like, I know you can be hurt, like everyone can be hurt, but you don't take it out. This is not an ego. You don't bring your ego to the table, right?
Yeah.
And I think that kind of openness is what brings people in, because you leave it open for people to you invite people to come in, so they come.
Yeah. I think it's the same for you though. Like I think that's how you've built your network. Like I remember being at TED Women with you, and it's funny because I'm like my husband, I'll tell you, and Galit's been in like my house with my sick dog.
Yeah.
But I remember like so he'll tell you if I go anywhere, I'm always like starting conversations with people. So I'll start conversations, but I'm never really like I don't really have people I have big groups around me because when I get into a crowd, I instant get quiet. And you would have
Totally.
noticed that there, right? Like
Yeah.
I got really like I let everyone else speak. So I'm fine on this camera and on LinkedIn being like, here's the show. But when I'm in a crowd, I just let everyone else have the power. But people were like searching you out. Like
Really?
I
I don't
like
know. The whole period, like the whole few days, they were like blank to me, as you
yeah,
know. Like, I
but they
remember nothing.
yeah, and I think part was that you were a speaker, but you also have that I think you also model that energy of walking around
Mm.
and never asking anybody for anything. And so because you never have had to, at this point you're probably like able to ask if you need to, which I think is the like if you haven't done it before, I don't want to say to people like, well, you're out of luck, but this would be a really great time. Like ask for help if you need it, but also offer help, right?
Exactly. Well, it's I am noticing that at this point of time, I'm doing both, because again, I'm a very resilient. I'm a very
Yeah,
I will build my boat and I will
yeah,
build my ocean. Really, I'm like, yeah, I don't expect anyone to give me anything. Um, and I normally do everything myself. I'm also like a multitasker, so I end up doing my graphics and my a
yeah,
lot of things, as you know. Um, but I think now this is like the point where I was like leaning in. Is a time that I realized, like, this is bigger. This is really bigger than me, and I think it's true
mhm,
about a lot of moments in our lives or in our careers, like people getting laid off, or people not getting that promotion, or not succeeding the way they want to, and in the modern culture, a lot of it is being put on ourselves, right? It's us. We're responsible for our success. We're responsible for our failure as well, right? People don't talk about luck. It's about hustling. It's about how you network. It's kind of like we let go of any external influence, of any privilege we were born into or not, any luck, any kind of help we can get out of people.
yeah,
There's a lot of pressure because the visibility is on the individual. And I think in a moment like this is actually a good time to understand that, yeah, you're responsible for your own career, for your own path and your own choices. But if there was ever a time, now is a time to open up and be honest and vulnerable, because we're all speaking from our own houses. you know
all right,
the
okay,
facade, the professional facade is out, and some people are trying to keep it, but these are not my people anyway. I've always been like this, but it's a great time for everyone to ease into, everybody are slowly easing into their humanity versus their profession, right?
I love it.
And
Hey, can I cut you
sorry,
off to
yeah,
ask you
sorry, I
something?
talk a
Okay,
lot.
I'm gonna add a thing. I'm putting in a slide that's called storytelling joke. I wrote out um, how I think storytelling is different right now, and I think it speaks to exactly what you're saying, and I think how people have to adapt their story. So the first thing I think that we used to not tell as professionals in our stories is that we never went dark. And I think that dark is okay now. Do you think that that's...
Totally.
Yeah.
I think it is. There's a different kind of dark. Somebody, like a client, told me the other week, I was trying to talk to him, and he disappeared and came back, and it's okay, because you kind of assume you now have the real story of like people have personal lives beyond this and maybe priorities beyond this, and it's okay. But he came back to me and said like, oh, listen, I'll call you tomorrow. You're home anyways, right? Which, this is the other side, the flip side of working from home. And as a freelancer, I used to get it a lot. So it's about framing still the working hours and your availability. And like, yeah, sure, I'm in the weekend at home. I'm not going anywhere, and during the day and in the evenings. But it's also a great exercise to go dark, and to let people go dark and not be offended by it, and be understood for it. But also, do it, create a framework, even though you're not in the office. It's important.
Yeah, because I feel like before, and especially on LinkedIn, and I would tell people like at interviews, like tell stories of positivity and don't bring up that like stuff you've been through. And now I'm like, no, let people know you've been through stuff, because if you've been through stuff before and survived, you're going to be more trustworthy in this environment. So it's not the time to be like, my life is perfect, but let's bring in, and not complaining, but let's bring in some of the things that aren't perfect, because we're all mourning and we're all in pain. So I think it's okay to have dark. The second one I said is that I think we have to be less braggy. Like, I think we can't, like, it was like humble bragging and bragging wasn't great before, but I feel like anyone who's coming up, and like if they land a job, that's great. They win an award, that's awesome. But I think people are just like bragging about how prepared they are, or like it's just not hitting well. And do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's something in general. I think that, and I don't know if anyone here is in marketing, but I think marketing just died. But at least marketing in the sense that it was before, like in the sense of like selling a story about, and not selling the story of, right? I think people, because the pretense is gone, right? Anything that isn't, the pretense is gone. Oh, what I said before that?
Story about? It's a story
of things. Like it's not about beautifying. It's not about creating stories that make things look cool or be cool. It's just telling the story as it is. Real connection, not making up a connection, not trying to thread, just be the way you are. And I think this is now we are like in authenticity marketing, but authentic. I had an organization approach me to help them create like a hackathon for COVID-19, and my reaction was like, don't do it. My reaction was, don't do it. And they're like, why not? I'm like, because it's like 3 weeks in, and just give the money, donate the money. Don't make it into a marketing tool. You really want to give, just give. Don't worry about the marketing, just give. Don't try to make it visible, just do it. Do what if you want to do a hackathon, do it, but think beyond that, because don't buy into the hype anymore. There's no more, the hype is gone. Like we all in our pajama pants right now.
Right.
Right? It's okay. Like,
I wear jeans for this, guys.
Pajama. And it's okay. And it's okay. It doesn't make me less, I hope, the fact that I actually wear a pajama doesn't make my top side be less, authentic.
Yeah. It's the same I'm giving the same advice in job searching, where I'm just like, this is not the time to follow. I was just talking about with the cover, like, this isn't the time to follow some like safe template about writing cover letters. This isn't the time to be, looking at some script when you reach out to someone. This is the time to just go what do I want to say to this person and how can I help their company?
Yeah.
And the people, like I've got clients landing and I've got people who aren't my clients, and how they're landing is just having those frank conversations, and they're telling the story of themselves, not like, it's not like dressing it up as anything and being super corporate speak is just falling flat because people are like, it has no meaning. So
Yeah.
Cool. I have one last, because I have to review some resumes for these people watching. But my last tip for the stories was like that more than ever now that we have to fill it with details. Do you think that's true in stories? So that the like before of like the feel of, like I feel like before you could say, I care a lot about efficiency and making things better. And people are like, no, what do you mean? Like, I feel like people want the grit to matter
Get
more.
to the chase.
Get to the chase. Yeah.
Just get to the chase. Yeah, I think this is a time that people are paying attention more than they did, are listening more. But it's more, I don't want to say one time, but there's no expectation of follow-up. You know what I mean? Like if I were to get a resume today, I will look at it and I'll make it, things are more immediate, right? So things is like what I see now, I think people have to make decisions of yes and no quicker, but it's decision. So there's something good in that, where people are committing. I'm hearing no's, which is great because people just don't want to, there's no hanging carrots. It's like yes or no. But that also means that whatever you put out there, just put it out there. Like, this is what, not in a bad way, but you have one shot and you have a good shot to get noticed and get seen, then use it. Don't be, don't hold off to make a better impression later. And maybe in the interview, just say it as it is and put it out there. And,
what a freeing time. Like for those who like authenticity, right? Like I think it is a freeing time. I know.
For me, it's like, this is the first conversation we ever had about resumes. I think I told you that was my problem, because I'm like, I can't, I just say it as it is. And it's like, it was a real problem because people got freaked out of, I was like very immediate. I'm very not, I don't do the hoo-ha. I walk into the room and like whatever state I'm at,
What's your action for hoo-ha?
Hoo-ha? Hoo-ha. Hoo-ha.
You did so moving. I was like, I love your hoo-ha.
I'm just who I am in that moment. I'm authentic to the moment. And sometimes it lands really well with people and sometimes it doesn't, and I accept it. So for me, it's like, oh, what a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Personally.
Oh man, I love you. I love you. Galit and I are doing a show later on in the week. You can follow her on on LinkedIn. You're on Twitter, so Galit, but I will tag her.
Galit Ariel.
And you just met her. She's really cool and a great person to talk to in this, because it's you're keeping busy, but not in like a gross hustler way. And I love the idea of just like, like creating kind of the space and letting things be, but connection first. It's beautiful. So thanks for joining for us on Career Stories Live. I'm going to do some resume reviews and LinkedIn reviews that you probably don't want to stay around for. So nice. I'll see you on.
Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, you're hired.
Yeah, because of my cover letter. Thank you. Thank you. I love it. Okay, awesome. So now I'm going to move on to, I'm going to do a quick LinkedIn review, a resume review, and then I'll get to some questions. So thank you, Galit, for coming. That's so good. Okay. So the first, I'm going to screen share this. The first thing I want to the first LinkedIn thing was Melanie Mitchell. Can everyone see that, Dave? Okay, so Melanie Mitchell sent me this sent me her LinkedIn profile to review. so she's a sales executive and real estate entrepreneur. At first, when I first look, what I like about it is she's got like Winnipeg in the background. She's in Winnipeg. That makes sense, right? And she works in real estate. So having buildings makes a lot of sense. The next thing that we have is we have this about. And the first 4 bullet points to me really look like it's a resume. Like it looks like this would be in a resume. So often, and especially, and it speaks to what I was just talking about with Galit, in this environment, we're at the time of kind of breaking away some of the boxes that we used to have when we would sell ourselves. So we used to be kind of told we needed to sound very corporate, that we needed to put ourselves into these accomplishment bullets, and that this was professional. And how it reads now is that I go, well, it's great that you were the winner of a top 10 awards, in a 2,000 person team. But why, right? Like when I look at this, I just go, but I don't know, Melanie, what you did to be the winner of that award. And then you go, known for extraordinary drive, work ethic, and entrepreneurial attitude, averaging 50, 60-hour work weeks. And I'm like, and you go top level sales results consistently. And I'm like, compared to what? And how do you do that, right? The other one of, develop this network of people, high profile, people from all walks of life, and that you have over 10,000 people in your database. That I go, how? And how do you nurture them? So what I don't see is that from this profile, I can't tell what you're good at. I know what you've achieved, but I can't tell what you're good at. And I can't tell what it would be like to work with you. Well, maybe the like high work ethic would help me to turn into that. But I don't, if you wanted to, sell me a rental space, like, so if I was looking for a rental space and say COVID-19 is over, I need an office space, this profile would scare me. This profile would scare me because I would go, oh, this is all about working really hard and collecting names and numbers of people, and making sales. And it doesn't speak to me as somebody who's gonna, I don't know how you help, right? And so I think you can write this. So the advantage of writing a profile like this is that it creates a barrier between the reader and you. So if you want to have a personal brand where you're really not approachable, where you're sort of seen like untouchable, then this is a great way to do it, right? Because we know nothing about you, but we know that you get things done. I think if you're looking to like build your network and be approachable, then it would be hard. And with this, Melanie didn't tell me what her goal with LinkedIn is. And I talked about it last week, but the most important thing when you are on LinkedIn is to go, why am I here? And what do I want to have happen from being here? So for Melanie, if she's on LinkedIn because she's trying to like get new clients to notice her, I don't know if this works. If it's a place like when people Google her and they can see all her achievements, then it's working, right? So I can say like it's good and bad, but it depends on what she really wants. The next thing I always look at is really like the activity. So I usually go into see all. And when someone wants to connect with me, that's what I do is I go right into like see all. And then I just go into looking at what they like. And I'm like, okay, so she likes, like Arlene Dickinson. She likes some car thing. Like something in the community, but I don't see Melanie commenting. So I don't know anything about what Melanie what her opinion is or how she connects with people. I just see her liking things. So I don't get a sense of her personality when I look at her history or when I look at her profile, which might be on purpose. So if it's not on purpose, then if she was my client and she said, well, no, I want people to know and take me, I want to be like the voice of sales leadership. Then what I would do is say, like, how do you lead? And let's share some content about how you lead and how you connect teams and, what makes you an award winner, and sharing some of those stories, and then seeing you actually giving some advice and sharing that information on other people's posts. So that is my quick LinkedIn review of that. The second thing that I wanted to share was a quick, I got to get back to my main page. Oh, Dave, I'm lost.
Oh, okay.
Okay, wait. No, I'm back on. Okay. Then I'm going to share one more screen, and then I will take a question. So I'll stop that screen, and I'm going to do one more share screen. Sorry about the clicky of somebody's sent me a CV. So this is what I was talking about with Galit, about somebody with like so much experience that can be overwhelming. So the first thing I can tell, and the person isn't trying to hide it, is that this person is a student. And being a student isn't bad in itself, but you always know it's a student resume if education is at the top. Unless it's like a CV and someone's going to university, but people who put education at the top are usually students. Now, when I look at the dates of this person, I can go, okay, they, like, looking at their work history, they are a student. Like, this is a student who like did a BA and then, is currently doing a BA and like studying law. And I can tell that they're a student. They're not a student that was working professionally and then returning. So one thing I'll say is that if you went to university or college after a long career, so you were working, say, in human resources, you decided to get a degree in human resources, so you left, got the HR certificate, and now you're returning back, don't put education first, or you're going to look like a young student. Like, hide it later on, right? So first we have this person who is a student. And what we see, the things that are at top is all these high GPAs, ranking top 10%, getting all of these scholarships, part of this this talent group. So everything that is at the top of this, all the accomplishments are all about status. Status being the best and being recognized. So in law, it could make sense to do that, but that's what I see is somebody who is like a super achiever. But what I don't know, because there's no header, it just goes right into education, is I don't know how this person works with other people. I don't know how this person, what they're good at. I just know that they are achieving a lot of things. What can be a drawback from spending so much time talking about the awards that you got and the recognition that you got is that sometimes people will say, this person's going to want a lot of recognition, and I'm not that kind of person. So when you put awards and things first, you look like awards make you happy, and that's the important thing about it, but it's not. The important thing, the sellable thing, is how you won that award. So a little profile about being, a current law student and a little bit about how this person works might warm you up before going into won all of these things, right? Then we go into experience, right? And in experience, it looks like a bunch of different terms, and that's fine because we know that they're a student. A lot of it is still very much task oriented. Even even the first line of selected as one of the 630 CEs globally to do this, it's still about achieving and status. so what would be more interesting to someone who is going to hire this person would be talking about those monthly articles and the ideas that you pitched and how that helped students to share their voices, and maybe an accomplishment about how you connected with students or made them more comfortable. Because otherwise it's still another status, and we've just gotten like 7 statuses from you. Then the next part is about that you collect, analyze, and discuss research papers and articles and prepare academic presentations. So these things that they're really task oriented, and I still don't know, if you did that well or if you didn't. So I would say, see if you can talk about the difference, what the result was from the things that you did, and if we know how you did it, not exactly what you did. But otherwise, like in terms of having the right keywords, the layout, all of that makes sense. A student resume can be 1 page. That's fine. You have all the programs at the bottom. I think that those are great. I don't think this is a bad resume. But I see a lot of relying on external validation of the skills and not a solid knowing of I don't know if this person knows what makes them exceptional and amazing. And when you're looking for a job in this market, introducing yourself as like, hey, I won 6 awards and I'm top of my class and I did this, it might be a turnoff, because we go, okay, that's cool, but what are you going to do for us? And I don't feel like this resume really shows this person's ability of how they're going to help a company. And I think they could, right? If they've won all these things, they probably could. And so would love to see it on the resume. So that is my resume review. So I have time now to, got to find my screen again. I am going to, would love to answer any of your questions. So I'm going to go into the chat and get there. So one question is, any suggestion to approach if I've been recently furloughed, include or not in the cover letter section? So in the cover, leave of absence. Yeah. So in the cover letter, you can talk about it. Usually in the cover letter, I call it a leaving story. So you can have, tell the company why you want to work for them. Yeah, why you want to work with them, tell them about your skills, and then you can tell a story that backs it up. And then you could say, I was recently affected like by COVID-19. And you could totally mention it there. You can even do it you can actually do it in the first paragraph if you want, because you don't really need to hide it. In your resume, if that's the reason you're no longer working, so you can put your end date. So if you're working, September 2017 to March 2020, you can put underneath it or beside it somewhere, maybe like italicize it or put it in brackets. You could say like affected by COVID-19, just to let the person know why. Millions of people are affected, right? So there's no shame, but it lets the person, what naming it does for the recruiter is it lets them know that you are available right now, right? Like it lets them know there's no 2-week waiting list, some people have to give 4 weeks notice. There's no giving notice for you. So you can do that. If you're doing any side projects, if you're helping out at all, doing other things, you can even add a line on your resume about it. And Kamara, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but Kamara Toffolo, Toffolo, who's a resume writer on LinkedIn, has made like 2 or 3 really super videos about how to write a resume at this time. So you can bring it up. Absolutely. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. Cool. Yeah. And let's see. There's, I guess, a couple of comments that I saw before. So just like Marcos talking about, like feeling like companies were using the moment to tell. Yeah, that's hard, right? Like I saw somebody who was a resume writer on LinkedIn say, hey, you can have my free resume writing class if you share this post or like this post, share this post, and then show me proof that you shared this post, then you can get my class for free. And I was like, oh, like as a person who's a job seeker who needs to learn how to write a resume, the last thing that they need to do is make a post about taking a free resume course, right? Like, so I think in marketing, I think you have to be really careful about how things are perceived. And we're all really sensitive. And sometimes sensitivity can come out of like can come out for, like of judging people quicker than we might normally do. So every action can be interpreted a little bit different. So cool. So that is all the time that we have today. Thanks for joining me. Next week, it's going to be a just student edition. So I have Jessica Atkin from the University of Winnipeg is going to join me, and we're just going to talk about what happens if you're a current student or you just graduated and how you might navigate it. So we're going to do student special next week. Yeah, so it's been a pleasure to be here. Thanks for spending my evening or your evening with me, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.